Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations. Got a great show today. It's with the president of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, our regional Chamber of Commerce, and she knows everything that's going on in business. So come along, let's have another Cape Conversations. Hi, everybody. I am so glad to be doing my fuzzy slipper. Yes, fuzzy slipper still, edition of Cape Conversations in my living room. I've got a fire going. I got beautiful paintings on the wall. I got a little bit of iced tea here, and although it looks like whiskey. Anyway, I've got a great guest today, and she's going to tell us all what's going on in the business community all over Cape Cod. She's a friend. She's a great person, and you probably know her anyway. Wendy Northcross, thank you so much for coming.
Nice to see you, Melinda. Happy new administration year.
Yes, and I have to say this, Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, whatever you are, that inauguration last night, the party,
It was pretty amazing.
Oh, it was splendid. And whoever produced it and directed it, man, oh, Manischewitz, they knew what they were doing.
You know, I said the same thing to my husband. I said, this is so well produced. It was so smooth. And you know what I loved about it too is well, you know, we've grown up watching the inaugurations, and you're seeing people dance at a ball, or people walk in a parade, and you sort of felt outside of it. But this felt, the way it was produced, you felt like they were talking to you, that it was more inclusive, and didn't matter who you were like part of it. And I loved that.
Well, and I also love the little boy from New Hampshire that had the stuttering problem. Oh my God, I started to cry, and I cried through the whole thing. I'm starting to cry now thinking about it. He was so precious.
It was so good, and it left me feeling, pretty jazzed up, so that I had a hard time going to sleep. I didn't fall asleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. I haven't done that since I was like 18.
Well, you're a few years younger than me. However, it's funny how 9 o'clock, it's like lights out, you know?
8:30, fuzzy slippers, jammies in the bed at 8:30. Yeah, no, it was certainly a huge contrast from the week before. And I do think, like you said, no matter which side of the aisle you sit on, I do think people support our democracy and want our country to succeed. Yes. And it's not perfect. It is not a perfect union, although we do try to work to that. It's just, we have a lot of work to do.
Well, sure. It says, I think somewhere in that preamble or in the Constitution, to form a more perfect. More perfect, not perfect, more perfect.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Big difference. So now we've talked about that. So you're in your fuzzy slipper area of your house, I believe.
I am. This has been I thought was going to be like a 3-week encampment. It's turned out to be, the marathon of, I don't know, what month are we on now? 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
It's snowing as we speak. That's quite quaint, but this is a 3-season porch. So I have my Ugg boots. I have my Uggs on.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So tell me, Wendy, you are the president of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. It's a big title. You've been there a long time. How many years?
Well, this is my 30th year in chamber work, and I think it's number 23 at the Cape Cod Chamber.
Right, because before, you were at Hyannis before.
I was at the what they now call the Greater Hyannis Chamber. It was the Hyannis area chamber. I was the 4th director they had ever hired, and that was an exciting time. We did a lot of events. We did a lot of special events. Dragon saw horses off of Main Street at 2 a.m. was a regular routine.
And wait a minute, first night Cape Cod, were you the exec then? Yeah, oh, I remember. And I remember actually we met, how many years ago? My God, I had just moved here, so over 40 years ago. We met when I got a job at the radio station. And you were like just out of college or something. You were really young.
Yeah, I was at the beginning of my career. I was in the business office, and you were an account executive. Yeah. And yeah, those were the days, huh?
Those were the days. I had 3 little kids and a Doris Day station wagon. Oh my God in heaven.
That's right.
Somebody said, wouldn't you like to go back? Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, maybe knowing what I know now, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's life's journey. It's been pretty interesting, and it's gone really fast.
yeah,
Don't you think?
yeah,
Really
yeah,
fast.
it has gone fast. So tell me, there's been a lot going on the Cape, and let's look at this tell me about business, because business as of March of 2020, everybody had to close down. Restaurants have struggled. Hotels have struggled. Anything that had to do with our seasonal activities seems to have struggled. Some have gone away. Some are still struggling, but they're hanging in, which is wonderful. Tell me, where are we with all of that?
Well, it's been pretty crushing for a lot of Cape businesses, and actually not just Cape Cod, but around the globe. And if your business model depended on what I'm calling density, you had to put, a certain number of people together in a room, either a theater, dining room, special event, retail space. If you had a small little retail space, that just was very crushing. And I think it was such a shock because people weren't really believing that this was going to go on as long as it has. And there's winners and losers in this, though. So not, while it's very crushing in some ways, some people had this unexpected boom in business.
Right, right. And who were those people? Out of curiosity.
There are silver linings. I mean, the home building industry just,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
people were buying houses sight unseen, and housing prices were being bid up by tens of thousands of dollars. So if you're trying to sell a house, it was, your home, you were in a good spot. The trades, if you were looking for a landscaper, house painter, because suddenly you're at home, you're looking around going, I really got to get the whatever fixed. Those people did okay. People that worked in office spaces that could go remotely, as long as they could continue their services, they did okay. So the problem is there's winners and losers in this environment. And while we were very fortunate on Cape Cod because we had a summer season,
Right.
many parts of the country did not. I talked to destination marketing organizations around the country, and it's very, very sad to hear what's happening. And I feel so lucky. We had the highest occupancy rates for overnight stays of any part of the state. And then when I talked to my friends in San Francisco last week, their occupancy rate is still, their city is still in lockdown.
Right.
They're at 11% room occupancy. Minneapolis, they're bracing themselves for the trials that are coming up. The George Floyd, murder.
Oh, sure.
And their city is very, very nervous. If you're a city, it was a hard blow, and that's not over yet because we are so rural and open and lovely, and we have so much outside recreation. We actually did pretty well for our tourism. It wasn't perfect, but we had a tourism season. And now we're in the second surge, whole new story.
Well, part of the problem is, I think the American people, we really, whether you lived on Cape Cod or you lived in Iowa or you lived in San Diego, none of us were quite sure what we were supposed to be doing. And I think that certainly is going to be cleared up. I think we all know that we have to stay distant, we have to wear masks. And we're all looking to our local communities for information. So I know I don't know whether you're in the chair or you're on the Reopen Task Force. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make the good point about local, because local boards of health have an awful lot of authority in the issue of public health. Mm-hmm. And while our governor may tell us to do certain things, actually our local boards of health can trump him if they want to.
Really?
Yes. So we knew that going into this pandemic, and Cape Cod Chamber immediately set up what we were calling a recovery task force, just trying to imagine what we might need to be doing by April, May, June to recover from the shutdown in March, April. the county set up a similar task force almost at the same time. So I said, well, this is crazy. Let's join forces. And we renamed it the Reopening Task Force. They asked me to facilitate the meeting because I ran the first couple of meetings. I had invited them to our meetings. And they said, let's just create one group where we communicate constantly. So I facilitate it. It has about 53 people in the group. So
Wow.
it's a lot of people to meet, but it's been an amazing example of local cooperation, because we knew, for example, if one town closed their beach down entirely, we knew that people would want to come to the beaches because it was open and fresh air. So it's like if you close down one beach, then you cause compression on another town's beach. And so we had to sort of coordinate some of that. So we have strong municipalities and strong municipal law in Massachusetts. We said we've got to have a coordinated approach, or we're just going to work at cross purposes. So we've been doing that since April, and we've now renamed it instead of the Reopening Task Force, because it's like been these varying phases of open, close, open, close. We're calling it now the Cape Cod COVID-19 Task Force. And I'm hoping it's not a lifetime appointment, because, you know, we meet three times a week, and I'm busy here. I mean, it's the most important thing we can do, right? If we don't get back to health, we don't get back to business.
Right, right. And that is a very, very important thing. So I know there's websites that we can look at that the general public can go to. You don't have to be a member of the chamber to do this. You can just go online and look. So what are those websites?
So the county's communications staff have done a fantastic job of assimilating the information that we gather and to share. It's called reopeningcapecod.org. You can also get to it from the Cape Cod Chamber website page. But if you just Google Cape Cod Reopening, it'll probably pop up. Mm-hmm. And also mass.gov//reopening. That's where everything is. But what I'm finding with the state website, everything is there, and sometimes it's a little hard to weed through it. So if you go to start with the Cape Cod site, you might find what you need for your Cape Cod business, or, you know, if you're somebody that wants to throw a wedding in your own backyard, there's things you need to know, and you can find it there.
I see. So the industries that have been hit hardest, we all know, are restaurants, hotels, maybe not as much as they could have been, but still have been. Wedding planners. I'm a JP, as you know. I just actually got involved, it was in December, with the Catania Hospitality Group. And what they are doing is small packages, not more than 20 people.
Micro.
Yes, micro weddings, exactly. It's a flat fee. If the bride and groom want to do more, you know, want a more extensive ceremony, I can provide them with that. If they want to meet me and all of those kinds of things, obviously there's a charge. But, you know, I was doing no weddings to doing at least I had no weddings in December, and then I had, you know, several in December. I did recoup a few in September, and a lot of elopements in October and November. You know, people just saying, we're going to have the big party later, but I've got to get my wife or my husband on my health insurance, which I'll marry anyway for any reason. So it's okay with me.
That is one of the industries that was crushed, I guess you could say. And you know, the wedding industry on Cape Cod, the latest data we have is for 2018. The direct spending by people planning, attending, participating in weddings, the direct spending is $58 million just on Cape Cod.
Wow.
Yeah. So it supports a lot of what we call solopreneurs. People like you, you're one person, you have that business, your customer is a wedding planner. So what we've heard is that a lot of the weddings that were planned for last spring, they moved them to last fall. And then that wasn't looking so good, so they moved them to this spring. So this spring is looking quite well booked and under contract. But the people that run those weddings, they're nervous. You know, the health numbers are still going to predicate what we can or cannot do, how big our groups can be. Right. So Hopefully, I mean, there was some good news that came out of the governor's office today about giving some relief to the size and operating hours. But still, if those weddings don't rebook again, that could be lost. That could be significant lost business.
Sure.
I heard the same thing though, that people were just getting married and they were planning the big party later.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't blame them. I mean, there does come a point. I worry about the governor opening things up, and somebody's going to shoot me dead for this, but I worry about it because I just wonder, should everything have just been closed down for 2 months and then reopen when its life is better? I don't have an answer, obviously.
Well, the public health people would love that. And I think they have said, if everyone just stopped around the globe, if we just stopped for 4 weeks and didn't move, we could tamp this thing down. But we're humans, we need to be, we need to move around. So that's what we do.
Right.
And I think Governor Baker, to his great credit, because I've watched him very carefully. I mean, it is a study of leadership, if nothing else, right? Under tremendous pressure, under huge uncertainty, with no playbook. There has been no. The 1918 pandemic, people didn't leave a lot of notes. There was a lot of bad things that happened then, including a lot of racial unrest that people wanted to forget about, and it just wasn't written about. There was no memorialization of that. So here you are with this administration, but fortunately we have some of the world's best health experts that are guiding him and helping him understand, and not just him, there's a whole administration, and there's us. We've been part of the reopening process for the state. But he looks at that numbers. He has said repeatedly he does not want to shut down the economy. He has said repeatedly he wants the schools to be open.
Right.
And he said repeatedly that he wants people to be healthy. And quite honestly, if we don't stay healthy, we create a huge burden on our healthcare system that then affects other people that may not have problems with COVID, but they may have problems with their pregnancy, or their father needs an operation, or their kid's been in an accident. So there's just all of these ripple effects. And I think they've worked really hard to balance all of that. I think all of us have just been shocked that it's been this long, this many months, and we just get impatient. Us humans, we're very impatient. And it is interesting too, because the numbers are high right now. I think they're creeping down. But what we look at, and every week we have a very in-depth data discussion. We think that the virus is as prevalent as it is now. We think it was as prevalent back in the spring, but we didn't have enough testing, and we really didn't know what we were looking at. But if you look, because the positive cases were low compared to the positive cases now. But if you look at the amount of deaths last spring and right now, the fatality rate's almost the same.
I see.
So we think we went through a really low period of the summer, which is great. We expect that the summer will be good again. But what we need to do is get those vaccines. We need needles in arms, which gives me chills because I can't stand needles. But that's what needs to happen, and that's kind of the new battleground on this whole topic of the pandemic. That's what our reopening task force, our COVID task force, is really focused on right now: is how do we get everybody vaccinated?
Well, one of our state reps, Sear, I believe, is really working on the testing. I think if he worked on the testing, getting the testing at the fairgrounds, that he is also working on probably vaccinations as well. I'm assuming you would know.
Well, that is, so Senator Sears, Cape and Islands state senator, he's our highest ranking public official from the region. So he acts as our public information officer. So he is part of the executive team on the COVID task force that I facilitate. And he's been an enormous champion, as the entire Cape delegation, both sides of the aisle, enormous champions for Cape Cod. They were able to bring close to $1 million to the Cape to ramp up the testing. And the good thing about the testing sites that we were able to facilitate, along with the expert help of the public health people at the county, is those sites can then turn into vaccine sites.
Right.
As long as we have enough staffing, as when we have enough vaccine. So once the vaccine starts to be delivered in larger quantities, we should be able to vaccine people. What's really fascinating too is we're trying to figure out just how many people are on Cape Cod that will need a vaccine. We know what the year-round population is, but think about, you're exposed to the real estate industry. Think about all those homes that sold and all those people that are now living in homes that used to be empty this time of the year.
Right.
We're not clear. We know those homes sold. We don't know what the population base is in them. So we're trying to extrapolate based on wastewater, water usage, electric use, how many people might be on Cape Cod right now, so we can make sure we have enough vaccine.
Right.
The snowbirds that would normally go to Florida this time of year, they didn't. They're staying in place as they were asked to do.
Right.
And they're here, but we might have normally not counted them in the winter because they normally aren't here. So all of that is, I don't want to say it's complicating it, it's just what is factored in. And we've got a lot of really smart people working together, public and private sector,
Right.
trying to figure that all out and do it quickly. We thought our big problem would be convincing people to get the vaccine. Now our problem right at the moment is everybody wants to jump the line.
That's the vaccine. I did a Cape Conversations last week with our health department here in Sandwich, and I'm going to tell you right now, we are so lucky because the head of our fire department has his master's in pandemic, whatever, reaction.
An epidemiologist, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. Our head of the Board of Health, Dave Mason, he has his master's in public health, so he obviously understands it all. And then our town nurse is direct, to the point, and she wants to get that vaccine in arms, and she is very disgusted with lots of people above her that it's not happening, because she thinks it should be happening right now. So I feel fortunate. I'm not in a community that they're kind of going, well, we don't know what to do, whatever. These people really seem to know, have their ear to the ground, and are working very fast to try to get all this stuff in place. So anyway, I feel good.
You know what? Well, Sandwich really has shown like a little bright star in this whole situation, and because of the expertise of your fire department leadership, they also coordinated, again, working through the reopening task force in the county, they coordinated all the first responder vaccinations to be implemented for the Upper Cape towns. So they managed that, which is great. Instead of each town going, this is where I'm saying, each town in it for themselves, it could be a little challenging. So most boards of health have maybe 2 or 3 people on staff all the time. And suddenly you have, in the town of Barnstable, where I live, you might have 45,000 people that suddenly want to get vaccinated. We have never vaccinated people on this scale before in history. We've just never done it.
Not even during the polio scare, they didn't? I would have thought, because I remember in Ohio, I was a little girl, and I went to the I went to the Elks. My parents took me to the Elks Club, my brother and myself, to get the little sugar cube with the vaccine on it. And there was long lines, but I don't, I just would assume that Cape Cod would have gone through that too.
Well, it's just in terms of the global dynamic, it is very large scale. But so this is, with a new administration that's taking a very aggressive stance on this, with 100 million doses in 100 days.
Yeah,
that's a lot, and we are fighting to get our fair share of those vaccines, because that is the issue. The supply has to come, and it's the choking point is in fact the manufacturing enough, and then there's always glitches with getting it here. It's like the delivery truck gets the wrong address. I don't know, but that's what I was warned early on. It's like, Wendy, it's not going to be a perfect flow. Things could happen. We have to make sure people understand this and have some patience. And so that's why the governor has rolled out, and it's up to each state to say, this is who gets vaccinated when. And we have a plan and a nice graphic. You should share the graphic with your viewers. Other states have different plans, and you got to pay attention to the Massachusetts plan if you're in Massachusetts.
I don't care what they're doing in West Virginia.
Yeah,
No.
Florida changed their mind at the last minute and did something different. And, so yeah, watch what comes out of Massachusetts. And we share that information as soon as it's breaking. It's like I said, there's new information that just came out today that people should check on.
Right, right. So what website should they go to besides Googling?
reopeningcapecod.org or mass.gov/reopening.
Gotcha. Okay. So Wendy, that brings me to another thing when you were talking about transportation, transporting all that vaccine. It comes over one of two bridges. Tell me about those bridges. What's happening?
So it could possibly come over the railroad bridge too, but I don't think it will. So the bridges are, it's, yeah, our beautiful, beautiful bridges, and they are beautiful and we do love them. They're just very aging and falling apart and need to be modernized and need to be safe, and they're not. So we were very excited. Last July, I attended a virtual ceremony with when Army Corps and Mass DOT signed a document saying they would work together cooperatively to design, fund, and build new bridges and new interchange roadways, whatever else needs to happen to make the traffic more flowing in the canal area. Then we have been supporting the transportation bond bill that Governor Baker filed, I think, in 2018. It finally passed into law just this month in January. And there's $350 million in the bond bill that we need to get that funded and pulled out, but it's dedicated directly for the bridge projects. It would go to Mass DOT primarily to do the final site, size, and design of the bridges. So that will kick off a very robust public information process.
Oh, it will be. I'm sure.
So that will, when people have been saying, well, where's it going to be and how big is it going to be and what's it going to look like? It's just like, we're not sure. It still has to be decided. Right. And once they decide exactly where the bridges will start and end and what they'll look like, that's going to determine the final cost.
Right. So I told you before we really started here that Markey today invited the new Secretary of Transportation, Mr. Buttigieg, Mayor Buttigieg. Is he still mayor? He isn't still mayor, right?
Well, you still call an elected official by their last highest post.
Okay. Right.
And so until he's sworn in, he'll still be mayor.
Mayor. Okay, Mayor Buttigieg. He invited him to Cape Cod and he told him about the bridges. So how cool is that?
Well, he's been to Cape Cod. I know he's actually an acquaintance of Senator Julian Cyr.
Right.
Yes, we believe that the Congress, one of their first things that they may do for economic recovery is to, in fact, pass a pretty sweeping infrastructure bill. So infrastructure can be anything from bridges to roads to airports to rail transportation to like CCRTA, like Tommy Kerr runs our CCRTA here. Right. All of that falls under infrastructure. And it's the one thing that both parties have been able to agree on for a while. Mm-hmm. They've just been trying to attach other things to it that bogged it down. But now that it's pretty clear that we're going to need to continue to invest in economic recovery, mm-hmm. we've needed to invest in, and water can also be in the infrastructure.
Right.
We've needed these investments anyway. So now to like fund that creates new jobs and creates commerce to be able to flow and people to be able to move. That's really what we need. So we think that will be the final piece that will be the federal money that we need to build those bridges. Right now, the is about $1 billion for 2 new bridges, but we really don't know until this work of site, size, and design gets done.
Right, right. Well, we have a new, this is my last year on the board. I tried to stay on as long as for infinitum, but this is my last year. And this year it's great because we do have a new president who's terrific, who's with Cape Air. Tell us a little bit about her.
So so the Cape Cod Chamber Board of Directors, Melinda's been a very valuable part of that whole, I mean, you were
Well,
on
I
our,
used to be.
we used to be somebody once.
I used to-
No, you've been a really important person to have on the board. You've been representing the arts
I
on
have-
our Linda Markham is our chairman of the board, and she is the president of Cape Air, and she brings that whole perspective. She's one of the only female regional airline presidents in the country.
Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
very dynamic time of change for them. I mean, you talk about a business model that's been crushed, and you're flying 11 passenger airplanes that are people have to sit very close together. That's been a huge challenge for them. And I do have to say, the federal relief programs that have rolled out, the PPP program to protect payrolls, the EIDL loans to get people emergency loans to keep their businesses running, that's been a lifesaver for so many businesses. Not a perfect answer, but we would have had far more business closures otherwise. But Linda's great. She's in the saddle fully. She's very interested in increasing our diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
We've just nominated our nominating committee is a very diverse nominating committee, and we're hoping to increase diversity on our board. And then she will probably serve till June. Hand the gavel over to Janet Feeney, also a terrific female leader.
Right.
I'm very excited to have these women, these smart women leaders. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, our time is up. It went very quickly. So we're going to have to talk again because we didn't even touch on the blue economy.
Okay, well, I'll come back.
Okay, sounds good. I hope, for God's sakes, I'm out of my living room. You know, not that I don't like my living room, but you know, I am getting. I'm really ready to get out.
It's why I kind of try to stay on my porch all day, because then when I go the rest of my house, it feels new. It feels like I haven't been here all day.
That's what Joe, I need you to build me a porch.
Right away, Melinda.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Wendy. It's delightful as always to talk with you, and I appreciate all this information. And again, that website is
reopeningcapecod.org.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. And if anybody ever wanted to call the chamber and get information about anything, they can do that by calling
508-362-3225.
3225. Excellent, excellent. Thanks so much. And hey, I'll see you at the next meeting on Zoom.
On Zoom. I'll see you there.
See you there. Wow, Wendy Northcross, she was terrific. Oh, we're so lucky to have her here on Cape Cod. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time on another Fuzzy Slipper edition of Cape Conversations.